Welcome to today's lesson on linear regression. So we're going to do these problems together today. What I'd like you to do is to take notes and try these in your calculator, and then let me know if you have any questions about how to put the information in your calculator and to calculate linear regression. So let's just talk about what you've done before. In the past, if we had several points, what we could do is draw a line of best fit and then calculate that line using our y-intercept form of the linear equation. So this time what we're going to do is we're going to take the calculator and ask the calculator to perform these same steps. So first we have to switch over to our calculator. Okay, so what I've done is if I go to the calculator where you have your blank screen, okay, I'm going to go to the button that says Stat. And then it should be on Edit or 1, and I'm going to press Enter. Okay. Now, on our problem that we have, this very first problem, number 1, we have the x values 5, 8, 12, 18, 20, and 22, and the y values 42, 85, 128, 182, 212, and 255. So you're going to take your x values and your y values, and you're going to enter them into the list in the calculator. So we're going to put them in L1, and all you have to do is to put your cursor over on the L1 and use your arrow buttons to arrow down. And then when I want to put in a number, I'm going to just type 12 and then press enter. 18, press enter. 20, press enter. 22, press enter. Okay. Make sure that it says L1 right here for the X's, and make sure that it says L2 right here for the Y's. Okay. Also make sure that there's nothing else right here. This should say L3, and we're not going to use that right now, but if it says anything else, it might give you an error sometimes. So sometimes we have to delete the memory from the calculator, and so that all the lists reset. You can go back and reset your list too if you want to, but sometimes just deleting the memory is easier. Okay, so once you have your X's in your L1 and your Y's in your L2, this is what we're going to do. So you're going to go back and you're going to press Stat again. Now this time, instead of Edit, you're going to click to the right, and that's going to give you Calculate. Now, notice there are a whole bunch of options here. Okay, we're going to do linear regression because that's what we're working with right now is linear equations. When we get to the quadratics chapter, we're going to do quadratics. We're also going to do exponentials, and we're going to do the power regressions. So for today, let's click on linear. Okay, and then notice that it's in the form ax plus b, which is the same as mx plus b. Okay, but they're using a for our slope and b for the y-intercept. So we're going to press enter there, and let's see here. Accidentally had some numbers that were sitting in the front of it, so it's not going to work. So I have to go back, which actually is great because errors always happen and we have to know how to get out of those errors. So I'm just going to go do it again. So did you notice I cleared it? And then I'm going back to calculate. I know that the lists are already in there. The numbers are already in there. I don't have to go back and double check that. So there we go. It should look like that. And then I've got my answer. Okay, so my A is 11.592. Okay, and my B is negative 13.551. Okay, so a lot of times what people do is they accidentally just write down the A and B, but notice that I have y equals ax plus b. They're actually telling me what formula to use and how to write this equation. All I have to do is take the number for A, put it in for A, and the number for B. So the answer to this question for number 1 is y equals mx plus, and we don't have to do the plus, we can go ahead and make it a minus, minus 13.551. Okay, and there's our answer for linear regression. Okay, so let's try this again. For number 2, it's important to watch the parts of this problem because they're going to ask you additional questions, but we have to find the linear equation first. So again, we're going to use linear regression. Okay, so this first, it says that a carton of peaches that weighs approximately 35 pounds is a lug. Okay, and they record the average number of lugs filled between years 1985 and 2005. Okay, so they've given us all of our data, all right? They're telling us how much has been filled for each year. So usually it's the column on the left that is the X and the column on the right is the Y. Or if it were top to bottom, it'd be X first and then Y, okay? So what I'm going to do first is it says find a linear model. Model is another word for equation. So we're going to go do our linear regression in the calculator. All right, so I'm going to go back to my calculator, and I'm going to go to Stat, and I'm going to go to Edit, so I'm going to press Enter because it's already on there. And I've already entered the numbers 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 59, 57, 51, 48, and 46. Okay, so those are those numbers that are here, the X's and the Y's. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Stat, and I'm going to go over to Calculate and then down to Linear Regression and then press Enter. Okay, it takes a couple times to press Enter. You'll press Enter once, you'll see that first screen, and then you'll see this second screen right here. Okay, so I've got A equals negative 0.7 and B equals 59.2. So A equals negative 0.7 and B equals 59.2. Okay, so now I'm going to write my equation. Y equals negative 0.7x plus 59.2. Just make sure that whatever A and B they give you, you put it into the proper format, which in this case is y equals mx plus b. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the information that they have asked us to find. So it says for B, based on the model, how many lugs will the orchard fill in 2020? Okay. So if I use 2020, let's do that right here, minus from where we start, that's going to be 35 years. 35 is the x. Remember, the x is the number of years. So I'm going to plug 35 into our equation. If I put that in my calculator, that'll give me 34.7. Okay, they're asking us how many of the lugs will be filled, and so I need to go by whole numbers, and I'm not quite at 35, so my answer is going to be 34 for B. Okay, all right, so for the next one, we're going to do C. So let's see, this was A right here, this was B, and now let's do C. Okay, it says based on the model, what year will the orchard fill less than 10 lugs? Okay, so let's find in what year will they fill 10 lugs. Okay, so that's, let's see here. So I know that this number is our y. So I want to put 10 in for the y. And I want to find years, and I know that is my x. So I want to solve for x. So are you noticing that on these types of equations, it's going to happen throughout the Algebra 2, they're going to ask you for one or the other. They're going to ask you to plug in a number for one of your variables and then ask you to solve for another variable. Okay, so if I go and solve this, I'm going to subtract 59.2 on both sides. And I calculate that and then divide by the negative 0.7. Okay, so we really want to know when this number will be less than 10. When we put this in our calculator, we get 70, okay? And if we take 70, and I'm just rounding, it's actually 70.29, okay? But we want to go in terms of integers, and so if I take 70 and add it to 1985, so if I go 1985 plus 70, I get 2055. And since we want less than, at what point does it reach less than? Let's go between 2055 and 2056. Okay, so that would be our answer for part C. All right, so just make sure that you understand how to plug in your numbers for the equation. If I'm asking for x, then I plug into y. If I'm wanting a number for y, then I'm going to plug my values into x, and then I'm going to calculate. Okay? All right. That's it for linear regression. Thank you for watching, and let's move on to the next item in our lesson.